What's up, guys? Paleo Gamer here, giving you guys a nice little video update of the Warder Guide. A lot of people have been asking for it, and it's been a bit of time. Hasn't been a video update since the Build 30 and Build 31's out, and we've got a lot of changes going on. It's really gonna shake things up, and it might cause a little bit of problems with some people because they are. It is changes that requires either remaking your character or getting a blank character and replacing yours and redoing the masteries, because that's the only way to redo masteries, so that's the route we went. So what we got here is our warder, and right here, naked in town, of course. Who doesn't like naked in town? What I wanted to show you guys right from the get-go is we're going to talk over the skill tree. Now this is the skill tree that I have that is with no gear on, so you guys get an idea of where all my points are going, and it's not kind of clouded by the gear. That's why it's off. So first we're just putting 1 point into Markovian's Advantage and Zohan's Technique. These are just chance on hit from default attacks to be used. It's kind of free damage. We have +3 to all soldier skills, so these are at like an 18% chance to be used, each one of them. This one's 120 degree arc, and this is just main hand, but it reduces their defensive ability, which is pretty nice. And this one slows their attacks. So both of them are nice utility and damage skills, and they're kind of like a free damage hit. Then we move on. 1 point into Warcry, because like I said, everything gets +3. So this actually reduces their health by 33%. That's pretty insane. Just a third of their health just gone. So it's pretty big. Decent radius. It's like 7 meters with gear on. And I also will show you guys everything with gear on, just so you guys get an idea. This will be a more in-depth guide than the last guide. Then of course, maxed out fighting spirit is just so good. Even with all the pluses that I have to it, which is a lot, I think I have like +9 to it, it scales. Like, it just keeps going. It is so much all damage, it's so much offensive ability. It's just super good, super good. So we just max this out. And then Blade Arc, of course, this is our big damage hitter. This is what's going to be the big numbers, 100,000, 140,000. I've seen up to 150 something thousand, so that's cool. So obviously going to max that out, and this allows it to go on a cooldown, get an increased crit damage multiplier, and then total damage multiplier. Generates additional threat, but who cares? But it also increases their knockdown duration, so that's pretty nice. Laceration is just more crit damage, more bleeding, doesn't hurt. It's all in all just great. So that's why we got that. Blitz, just a standard movement speed. It helps you move from pack to pack, allows you to really charge in and just keep going from pack to pack, which is nice. And it also, you can even use it as escape as well. Now they allow you to phase through enemies. Same thing with Shadow Strike and Chaos Strike. Blitz, they all allow you to move through enemies. So if you really need to get past a wall of enemies, you can click past them into another mob that's behind them, and you'll go through all of them, whatever's in the way. It doesn't matter. Nothing gets in your way anymore, which is awesome. And then, of course, we have 1 point to this. It actually hits really hard. And this is just an additional modifier to this, and reduces their defense a little bit. But it's just because we have plus to skills. I think we have +5 to each of these. So the damage is actually pretty solid. So it doesn't hurt to have 1 point in there. You can clearly remove this if you don't feel like it's useful, but I left it there for now. 1 point to Menhir's Will, because we have like +3 at least, or we might have +6 to it, I think. We'll see with gear on, of course. But I don't feel like too many points are useful for it. Obviously, it's a great skill. It's just, you don't want to put too many points into it, I feel. This is great. Max it out, whatever it takes. 10 out of 10. Don't go past 10 out of 10. It loses a lot of its value once you go at level 10. It's only like 1% health per point. It's just not worth it. So with my current gear, I have +3 to it, so it's at 7. Same thing with Decorated Soldier. Decorated Soldier is great. All elemental resistance, physical damage. It's real good. So make sure you have, if you need it for the elemental resistances, which you probably should, depending on your gear setup at least. And that's going to be your standard 8 out of 8. Don't go past 8. Only use this to. I mean, you get physical damage, which is nice. So you could just, I just say, stay at 8 out of 8. 1 point in the field command. I don't really think it's worth much more than 1 point just for the aura, but the modifier to it is just straight all damage and attack speed. It's kind of a no-brainer. Get this to 12. I really wouldn't go past 12. It doesn't really scale too well. Then as for Shaman, if you notice, we're the majority Shaman now. To get Primal Bond. We'll talk about Primal Bond as we get there. So starting off, 1 point to here, it's just extra physical damage, but it really allows us to get Feral Hunger. Feral Hunger I found is like really, really insane. I'm testing it right now in place of Wendigo Totem or in conjunction with. We'll see. Currently this is like, I'm in testing. I'll kind of give you an idea of these 3 nodes here. These three nodes are still in testing. So this right here is a 25% chance, well, if you get it to level 8. 8 out of 10 gives you a 25% chance to be used. It's a 180-degree arc, and it's kind of like these red slashes in the air. And it does a lot of healing. If you see 36% of attack damage converted to health. Anytime this goes off in a group of mobs, my health shoots straight back up. It can be at 30%, and it'll just straight back to full. Really, really solid skill. Because it is chance on use, I'm having doubts that it might not be enough because it's not dependable. We do have a little bit of lifesteal with our Life Giver Signet, and I'll get into that within the gear, but for now, I don't know if this is enough. I think Wendigo Totem still might be needed for like Steps of Torment and Bastion of Chaos, but again, I haven't done much testing. I will do more testing as time goes, but I wanted to get you a video guide out here so you guys get all the update information. So next one, obviously we don't have any points in the Wendigo Totem. I think leveling up, using Wendigo Totem would be worth it. Just a couple points into it, maybe get 2 to 3% maybe. But past that, I really wouldn't bother. I think when I leveled, I did use 12 points into it, but at that time, I think that was pre-nerf, so they did nerf this. It used to be much better. It was like 5% plus 400 per half second or whatever it is. And it was crazy. It was just like you could never die. But they did nerf it. Now it only goes up to 5% at max level as opposed to much earlier. It doesn't scale as well. Only a couple points into that. And if you were to rob points from anything in this tree, I would say rob it from Tenacity of the Boar. Tenacity of the Boar is good, but I don't know how good it is just yet. Again, still in testing. But if you want to grab Wendigo Totem, I would recommend going up to 3% and rob the points from Tenacity of the Boar. And I will give a this build here is gear dependent. I will give a non-gear dependent build after this, so it'll all be in one guide. This will be a fairly longer guide, but hopefully it'll be worth it for you guys. So our default attack is actually switching from Cadence to Savagery. Savagery is just better. Cadence requires so many points, and it requires us to go so much farther into the tree of Soldier, where it isn't really that great. I like Deadly Momentum. I like Cadence. It was great when I was using it, but one of the viewers recommended Savagery, and I've been using Savagery on my Trickster, so I'm a big fan of Savagery. And then I'm like, you know what? Savagery makes a lot of sense. It gives a lot of damage to all the other skills. Blade Arc is a main bleed and physical. This gives a lot of bleeding damage to it, 90% damage enhancement. And then also, I really like the attack speed that Storm Touch gives. 10% attack speed and 50% physical damage is pretty huge. And even the lightning damage isn't that bad. The chance to electrocute, plus the lightning damage. Now that dots can crit, having lightning damage on there isn't that bad to have electrocute for dot critting and bleeding damage. It all works out really well, actually. And in testing, I can tell you so far, without going to the character sheet yet, the crit has been higher even after the patch. So before the patch, our highest crit was 139,000. I can tell you I've seen 154,000. So there's that. On this specific character, it's only seen 144,000, but I haven't really played that much. So like I said, I'll get to that once we put the gear on. And then, of course, only put 1 point in Modrigan's Pact. It's only worth 1 point. It's only worth it for the aura, but what's really worth it is Heart of the Wild. This skill is just crazy good. 40% health. That's just crazy. 40% health. It's nuts. It's a lot of health. in conjunction with military conditioning, it's a total of 60% health just with those two skill nodes. So that's really crazy. And then the big thing that switched us from main soldier into shaman, primal bond. So primal bond at first glance you're like, bonus to all pets. Why are we getting this? 15% damage absorption. Who doesn't like a flat 15% damage absorption? 108% physical damage. We do physical damage. 135% bleeding damage. Well, we do bleeding damage. Quite a lot, actually. 18% less damage from beasts. I can't tell you how many times I've been hit by one of those rhinos, and just it would just wreck my health. You know, it just hits a hit. You know, beasts hit hard. 18% less damage from beasts is awesome. And then Constitution, we won't talk about Constitution. So this was definitely worth it. The only thing we really were gaining from Olorion's Rage was offensive ability and movement speed. Like everything else really didn't matter. I mean, truthfully, it was so many points just to get to Olorion's Rage. When I first was making the build, I didn't really think about it. I was thinking that the 12% offensive ability was worth it, and then I was thinking about it again, and I'm like, you know what? Primal Bond is just way better. And I apologize for all of you that have already put all the max points into Soldier. My other character was that way as well. I don't like that they don't allow you to refund mastery points, but that is a complaint for another time. I don't want to waste time with that. So with that, I'll flip to these one more time so you guys get like an idea. You can pause the screen if you want to study it, but there will be links for everything into the main guide. There will be Grimcalcs for everything. There will be devotion points for everything. Everything will be, you know, as is in the written guide, and it'll all be followed by the video guide as well. So everything will be in conjunction, so you can watch the video and refer to the written guide, you know, as one or the other or both. Now what I did do is I did provide you guys with a quick idea of what I feel like would be optimal if, say, you had no plus to skills. This would be my idea of what you would go with if you had no plus to skills at all. So if you notice between the two guides here, we dropped out of Marcosi's Advantage, Zohan's Technique, but we did keep one Warcry. I do think Warcry is worth it. We kept this max, kept that maxed. That stayed the same. Only 1 point here, but not a point here. We're saving points when we can. I still think Blitz is worth it for the movement, so that's good. Still 1 point here. I do think that military conditioning, even without gear, is still worth going for 10 out of 10. Same thing with Decorated Soldier, but only 1 here, 9 here. And then for Shaman, it's going to be 1 and then 8, of course, and then 5 here. We're getting most of these points. These 11 points is dropping 11 out of Tenacity of the Boar. I just think that Tenacity of the Boar is probably the more ideal setup, to be honest. Getting it like a constant pulse of 3% plus 160 every single time Wendigo Totem pulses, I think is just super strong. It's probably going to be better than Tenacity of the Boar. I was kind of looking at the offensive ability over the healing, but in the playtesting that I went, I was fighting the Undead Nemesis boss, and he was taking my damage down pretty fast, and I gotta tell you, Feral Hunger wasn't keeping up. So I think that the pulses of Wendigo Totem plus the Feral Hunger, and then even the Blood Pact, which is nice, it gives you a 33% chance of having a 5% attack damage converted to health. So that's just kind of like a second Life Giver signet, honestly. It's not bad at all. And then, of course, it enhances the damage of Wendigo Totem just a tad, but a little bit more bleeding as well. So it's not bad. It's definitely really good. Just for 1 point, it's not worth anything more than that. And then everything else stays the same. You max these 3, and you max, or put 1 point there, max that, and max that. So not a lot changed, but essentially just shifting the points out of Tenacity of the Boar into those abilities, and you're sacrificing a couple abilities here. So not too bad, but as I say, it's not too gear dependent, but it does open up a bit of variety with gear. And then what we'll do now is I will show you what my character looks like with gear on. Alright, and then we'll turn on our aura here, and then we'll also go over gear. So now I'll give you a quick look through. Shaman doesn't really change that much. Again, I'm not going to go over the skills again. I'm just going to show you this is what it looks like with gear on, and this is what soldier looks like with gear on. As you can see, like fighting spirit, 290% all damage, 370% ability power. That's just crazy. It's crazy good. And these are 18% to be used, 18% to be used. This has a radius of 8 meters. Reduces the target's damage by 8%, which is pretty good for 1 point. And then, of course, this maxes out, and then it doesn't really scale too well after 12, so you don't go past that. This does 170% weapon damage, so look at that, 3 to 17k. That's pretty good for an escape ability. And then this adds a little bit of damage to it, and then reduces their defensive power, of course. And like I said, keep this 10 out of 10. What if you get more plus the skills to it, take points out of it. Put them somewhere else. That's what I've done. Kept these at 8 and 10, 4 and 12. Don't go past 12, like I said before. And that's what those look like. Right now we're sitting at 15,000 health. Pretty damn good sizable health pool. 1,000 physique, 603 cunning, and 330 spirit. And I know the question you all have been asking. I've made sure to calculate this. So, for attribute points, I have used 49 physique, 30 cunning, 8 spirit. The 8 spirit is because of this amulet right here. This requires 328 spirit, and we have 266 with all of our gear, all of our devotion points, and all of our augments and everything. So we have 266. So we need the 8 extra points of attributes to wear this necklace. I do feel like this necklace is the best in slot for us. So that is why we needed to use some spirit, because you needed jewelry. So 49 physique, 30 cunning, 8 spirit. That is the question you guys have always asked, and I've never had the exact answer for you, but now I do. For this gear, again, it really depends on gear. But you know, that's something that it's like I said, it's totally gear dependent. Okay, the next thing, we'll go over gear. Leviathan is best in slot weapon by far. It's crazy top end damage. Overall damage is pretty good too. But it's the best weapon I've found so far. +2 to all soldier skills. It just got a buff. It was only +1. Now it's +2. That's awesome. It gives a crap ton of physical damage. It gives health, physical resistance, chance to freeze, retaliation. All in all, it's just great. It also reduces your freeze duration. Can't beat that. And then even the ability on it, Great Tide, it does a decent bit of damage. I mean, look at that. I mean, it's 80% of your Wayne hand damage, and then 5 to 7,000 physical, and then 1 to 1.4 cold and chance to freeze. So it works on trash mainly. It doesn't do really anything to boss. It can chill bosses sometimes, but it wears off really quickly. And then Olrion's Might in the weapon, that's super strong. It gives us a lot of damage, or I'm sorry, Olrion's Blood, my apologies. Olrion's Might is the ability. Olrion's Blood gives us a lot of damage, offensive ability, and total speed. And then it also gives us Olrion's Might, which gives us a lot of damage. Really strong skill. Crits really hard, and I've seen it crit for 100k pretty easily. Next is our chest piece. This chest piece is crazy good for resistances, and that's mainly why I use it. Not only does it give us physical resistance, fire resistance, cast resistance, it gives plus to fighting spirit, which is awesome, and has a high amount of armor, which is great, but it also gives Divine Guard. It's a toggled ability. That's what this is down here, Divine Guard. And what that does is it gives us an additional 10% health, 25% fire resistance, 15% vitality resistance, and 15% chaos resistance. And we're using a Chains of All Around in that for the offensive ability. Our pants are the Chausis of Barbaros. A lot of high armor, physical damage, offensive ability, chance to avoid melee attacks, and the Olrion's Rage we don't use, but that's fine. Still gives us Battle Cry, which is pretty awesome. Gives total damage and attack speed. So all in all, really good. And the rest of the augments in the gear are all for resistances. So I'm not going to speak about them. The augments will depend on your gear. Just use whatever augments and components that it takes to get your resistances up to as high as you can. I can't tell you what you'll need. If you have exactly the same gear as me, you can copy this setup. You can see the little pictures. This shows all of what they are. Anti-Venom Salve, Sanctified Bones, Silk Swatch, rigid shell, the dense fur. These are ethereal souls, which goes on amulet and metal, and those give her 12% aether resist per one. Frozen heart for the cold resistance. Roiling blood because I had enough resistances that I could put a DPS, physical damage and offensive ability on my ring. And augment wise, everything's wearing from the Outcasts 10% Aether on almost every single piece of gear, except for this one and this one. These are both cold and lightning, and they are also from Outcast. So it's actually kind of nice. Farm everything for Outcast, and boom, you got all the resistant gear or augments you need for everything here. Rovers are rings, crazy good. 180 flat health, 12 resist all. Less damage from Beast and health regen on both rings and amulet. Super, super good. So moving on from the pants, we've also got the Olreon's Wrath. A lot of physical damage, offensive ability, +1 to all soldier skills, and then chance on attack to do some damage. Great. Tinker's Ingenuity is a really, really cheap craftable belt that has just a crap ton of just survivability. It's just, this thing's chock full of like everything you want to survive. It has health regen, constitution, chance to avoid attacks, increased armor, of course, not bad. Poison resistance, bleed resistance, plus max to poison and bleed resistance. And then Tinker's Ingenuity, it just, when you drop below 40, you take less damage, 15% less damage, and you do all damage. And then you also increases your health regeneration and energy regeneration. So this thing is just 4 defenses only. This is how my resistances for bleeding and poison are even that high. If I take it off, my bleeding drops to 5, and my poison drops to 5, and bleeding drops to 14. So yeah, that is how I am getting my resistances. And then moving on to our metal here, Sigil of the Bear King. Again, physical damage, health, defensibility. Pierce resistance is real nice. Max pierce resistance, of course, and then the bear claw, chance on attack, not bad, does some damage. Shoulders here do some physical damage, defensibility, chance to avoid projectiles. All in all, this is just a nice pair of shoulders because you get an additional. If you're wearing a two-hander, it's Titan's Might, gives you physical resistance, pierce resistance, and 5% physique. So that's really cool. And then the Grasp with On-Chain Might, these gloves are insane for DPS, great. Physical damage, all, attack speed, and then +2 to Blade Arc, and that's our main ability for our big damage besides Savagery. Then of course, chance on critical strike to gain more offensive ability and attack speed has a little kind of like a proc on it. So last but not least, our Bone Shatter Treads. These things are just for physical damage and offensive ability, movement speed, and of course life leech resistance and slow resistance aren't bad, and +2 to fighting spirit, which is really nice. That's a skill that procs that does an insane amount of all damage and offensive ability, so really good there. Shattering Force is okay. It reduces their armor by 200. That's really the only useful thing. Does some damage, no big deal there. And we've talked about our components and we've talked about our gear. As far as playstyle goes, it's pretty simple. We're going to use the training dummy for our kind of I don't know, demonstration. So you just charge in and you just start swinging, and then you stack up savagery. Once savagery stacked up there, you can drop her totem, do some swinging around. You can drop their Warcry to reduce their armor. Use pretty much all your skills on cooldown, and this is pretty much it. And once you're done, you swoosh to the other target. When you're done with that pack there, you just, it actually does really solid DPS. I mean, I've seen, look at that, bleeds are ticking for 35, 36k, 112k right there, and I'll just keep whacking on this guy as I talk about the rest of the stuff. So if you guys liked it, please thumbs up or thumbs down if you didn't like it. I'm going to be doing another video here on my Trickster guide. I'm going to put a link in the description that's going to have another the forum post, as well as the link to the Trickster guide will be updated. He's not updated there yet, but he will be. And I hope you guys enjoy. And just so you guys know, the damage from this, you can't proc Fighting Spirit, obviously. You're not taking any damage. So imagine this amount of damage, so that 110k proc you've seen earlier, imagine that damage with another 290% all damage and 370% offensive ability. I'll let you think about that. Alright, you guys have a good day.